Thank you. And while I was setting up, I missed the answer to the question who is in platform engineering. But at a glimpse, I saw at least a couple of you, right? 10, 20, 30%, something like that?
I think so, yeah.
And maybe the other question is, who's familiar with platform engineering? Great. Excellent. Okay, I think we have a packed agenda today at DevOps Days. And together with Roy, we're kicking off with our story about unveiling our web portal at Bol and giving you some insights into our journey. My name is Onno Ceelen. I'm a group product manager. I'm working at Bol for 5 years. I have a background in engineering. It's a while back, but more recent years, I've been working in companies serving business to business, but also business to consumer. And yeah, I don't know how to call this. Is it B2T or tech to business? In essence, serving internal customers. And in our case, that's about over 100 teams that we are serving from our platform organization. I got obsessed with developer experience, and if there's anything that itches me, that is a bad UX, so people know me for that. What about you, Roy?
All right. So I'm Roy Triesscheijn, and I'm the product tech lead for engineering productivity at Bol. I've also been there for quite a few years, almost 7 now. And I'm going to kick off this presentation by first getting everybody up to speed on what a web portal is. I'm just going to do that in 2 minutes so that everybody is familiar with what we're talking about. So, according to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, a web portal is a portal for observing and provisioning products and capabilities. Okay, what does that mean? Well, for you as an engineer, it means that you will have a portal with a catalog with all your applications, some sort of automation to help you with your chores, like creating new applications, and maybe some scorecards that will tell you how well you or your team is doing. There are a lot of different web portals these days, with Backstage probably being the oldest and most well-known one. But there's something for everybody. So if you're a platform engineer, and we saw, I think, 30, 40 people in the platform space, then the web portal is the user interface, and only the user interface through which your colleagues, those software engineers, interact with your platform, the platform that helps them run their applications. So that puts it a bit into context, I think. So at Bol, we've had a web portal for a couple of years. In 2019, we launched an internal tool called the Software Parade. It was sort of like a big catalog with all the applications we had, and it was really popular. Then in 2021, we really started a team to implement Backstage at our company. We are early adopters of Backstage, we are active contributors, and we're also active maintainers of part of the Backstage source code, so we're really invested, I would say. Now, launching a web portal at your company is not as easy as we would have hoped. So today we're going to talk about the risks of launching a web portal. Especially Onno is going to talk about the value and viability, and I'll come back to you later. So Onno, let's get into the content.
Thank you. Yeah, value and viability. So this is really about solving user problems in alignment with business needs. So what am I talking about? But first, before I dive deep into that, like Roy mentioned, we started off like 3 years ago, and it all started from one big idea from one of our engineers who said or wrote, what we need is a platform wrapper. And this is already in the context of like what we called back then the pit of success, and more known as golden paths or paved paths. So what we need is something around the platform so that you are not interacting with all different tools, but instead through a wrapper. That also made us think of, okay, but what is that wrapper and how can we turn that into like a vision? And which problem are we actually solving? And that is to unify the scattered set of solutions into one cohesive portal. And the reason to do that is to alleviate cognitive load, boost productivity, and streamline work processes. But the ultimate thing is just simply help engineers get their job done. But also, when talking about it, how do we describe this? How do we make this a bit more tangible? And we consider the portal within Bol a success when engineers get things done. So it should really help engineers to convert needs of developers into things they can complete. But also it should help you discover solutions. So especially in larger organizations, there's so many things going on, so many things, so many initiatives start. And such a portal can help you discover what is around. But also to take action. Like previously seen, observability, but also other tools call for your action. And a portal can consolidate these things together so that you know what is expected from you on a daily basis, so it can guide you through the day. And last but not least, other engineering-facing teams who build internal tooling should see our portal as the place to do that. More on that later. But to approach that success, so to iterate to a desired outcome, to iterate to that success, we started with one engineer, have grown that team to multiple engineers, back-end, front-end, full stack, but also hired front-end designers, a product manager, and supported by a product analyst. So really established a cross-functional team over the past 3 years. And with that multidisciplinary group, we could really implement product discovery tactics and best practices, like interviewing users, to name just one of them. And if you're familiar with product discovery or continuous product discovery habits by the book of Teresa Torres, where she introduces the concept of product trio. So combining these disciplines of engineering, UX, and product will drive decision-making in terms of priorities and identifying value. And this is all in a context where it's very tempting to fall into the, the temptations of feature factory behavior. Because there's so much you can do in a portal. There are so many ideas. And because it's visual, it's no longer some hidden infrastructure, it's really a front end. People have opinions and come by. And it's also tech for tech, engineers building internal tooling for other engineers. But take into account the assumptions that you have. As an engineer in such a team, you are one. And you need to test your assumptions if you want to build something for the masses. And of course, in platform engineering, I think many of you know, is the loudest voice fallacy. People coming by and say, I need this tomorrow. And that is not always the best way to approach choosing what to do. Then what about, how do we identify this value? That's a value exploration. So what we did is we really got a deep understanding of the engineering journey, the developer journey. And that there are different techniques or tactics to apply, like value stream mapping or service blueprint design and so forth. But ultimately, you want to get a deep insight into what an engineer, what a developer does. And this goes far beyond just build and run. There's also, talking about developer experience, research done by Abi Noda and others that introduces like 3 core dimensions, which is feedback loops, cognitive load, and flow state. And this goes far beyond a portal, absolutely. But taking a note of these dimensions will also help you identify value and solutions that you can build in your portal. At one point, we also got, of course, people, screaming is maybe a big word, but you sometimes think, okay, we need to drive value a bit faster. And since we're using Backstage, Spotify also comes with the marketplace. So what we did is also see what's on the shelf, what is available. And we went from a long list to a short list to identify what worked. And we found some that did work, but also figured that the lot did not solve our problems. So be mindful there. It's not just plug and play in that respect. I can talk a lot about how we perceive success and how we describe success like I just did, but ultimately you also want to measure. And there's so many metrics around, and of course we are also measuring on a lower scale. But at a higher scale, we are really looking at a happiness metric of employee NPS, a retention metric of daily active users divided by monthly active users, so seeing how often people come back, and engagement traffic in terms of daily visitors. But striving for as many visitors a day and having them be on your portal the whole day doesn't make sense, right? Like I said before, we want people to get things done and move on, because ultimately engineers want to build great functionality. And this does still not paint our ambition. So we also have been looking to a North Star growth metric that tells us, okay, what do we want to accomplish? Again, get jobs done. And of course, at Bol, we know a lot about sales conversion, that kind of thing. So we were thinking in that realm, and we introduced something that we name now jobs done conversion. So that's really looking at that journey, really looking at tasks completed by engineers and measuring that. And also setting an ambition in that direction. Enough about value, a bit about viability from an organizational perspective. So when you're building a portal, you're not doing this alone. There are a lot of other people or other departments or other groups in your organization, including security, observability, infrastructure, that maybe have built their own tools and that want to, and have also created their own self-service portals. And like I said, we want to consolidate those. The expertise is right so with them. So you should utilize that instead of trying to do that all in one team. Collaboration is the key word here. And what we did is, for example, we engaged with our SRE craft. They had the mission to really make step changes on rolling out the SRE craft, becoming more mature. And by building some pieces into the portal, we really helped them to make that next step, specifically about error budgets. So key learnings from this perspective is you need product management to really ensure that you build the right product and guide the team towards that. Apply product discovery tactics to untangle the actual user problems. And the structure of your team, of your core team around the portal is resembled mostly by a normal product team, given the crafts. And it thrives in an open, collaborative culture. Said enough about value and viability, feasibility, and usability.
All right. So if you now have figured out how to make a valuable and viable web portal, but can your company actually implement it? Because it's not as easy as we would like it. Unfortunately, every web portal starts like this, like completely empty, devoid of any information, devoid of any value. So the first thing you need to do is to add a lot of information to your web portal. Now, and that is, I think, the biggest problem with web portals. They need a lot of information. Some of this information is easy to get. For example, if you're in the cloud, it's probably one API call away to get all your applications. But who are these people working on these applications, and how are they organized? That might be something that is only available in a PowerPoint slide and not in a machine-readable format. This means that the team implementing the web portal needs to create it, needs to maintain it. Some other data is even harder to get. For example, I don't think many companies have an API that will say, oh yeah, this application is following all our best practices. Would be nice to have, though, in the scorecard for your web portal. So your team is going to gather information from everywhere inside the company, and they're going to have to make new information to glue everything together. In fact, they're going to create an entirely new data set, at least from the perspective of your users. Because if your tool is going to say, oh yeah, you're in team A, and I'm pretty sure I'm in team B, I'm going to complain to you, and I'm not going to figure out how you came to the wrong conclusion. Even worse, power users are going to see your information and they're going to like it. Because this is the first time that all this information is brought together in your company. For example, at Bol, we're busy moving from our old data center to the clouds. So we have a project manager on that. He can see in our web portal which applications are still in the data center. And he likes to see that. But of course, he wants to combine that data with other data that he has, like data about how valuable these applications are. And that means that you need to expose this data for the power users. And now you have to maintain all this data for yourself, but also have to sort of provide it via a stable contract. It means a lot more teamwork. At Bol, we still haven't figured this completely out. We're still working with a lot of teams to unlock their data. We do this together with the multidisciplinary team that Onno talked about, so with a business analyst and 2 designers. Because then we can show what value exposing this data would bring and how nice it will look in our web portal. If people expose their data to us, we ask them to expose it via an open API, because then we are no longer the brokers of that information. The burden doesn't fall on us if people want to play with it more. Still, we own a lot more data than we expected. And we actively try to manage this away, to have other teams take ownership. For example, and I saw a really big tech radar out in the sponsor room. We also have a tech radar. It's in our web portal. And we used to maintain it. But my team is not the expert on what technologies Bol should use. So we asked the tech leads within the company to take ownership of that information. And we moved the data physically outside of our repository. And now we have a rich tech radar maintained via good process by the experts of the data. And we are unburdened and we can do something else. Still, your web portal is not just data. Onno talked extensively about the value, and it's not just looking up what applications and what teams you have. In fact, the web portal is a tool to to change how your developers work. At Bol, developers have a lot of freedom, but these days it feels a bit like driving around with an out-of-date GPS. You will probably get to your destination, but you might get a little bit lost. We want to change this to how a high-speed bullet train works. You board the train, you don't care about the route, and you exit at the station you want to go. So, as we said, we looked at the developer journey, and we identified 50 touch points, 50 different applications that people need to use. Now, that's a lot, right? So how do developers know when one of these 50 tools needs their attention? How do new developers find these 50 tools? So we talked about enabling plugins to maybe reduce these touch points. And we tried that with, in Backstage, the OpsGenie plugin. So OpsGenie is a tool for alerting and monitoring. And we enabled the plugin, and now we had a nice list of all the alerts in our web portal. But we didn't really reduce the number of touch points. Actually, we added a 51st touch point, because now you could see the alerts in 2 places with different UIs. So we got rid of the plugin, and instead we decided to put this information in context. So we still integrate with OpsGenie, but now if you go to our portal and you look at an application, it will show you, oh yeah, I am the EOD, and there are these active alerts that pertain this portal. This means that in your workflow of debugging and figuring out other applications that you interface with and figuring out what's going wrong in the wider landscape, now you get this information now in context. And if you want to know more, you can click it and you go to the OpsGenie tool, because of course the OpsGenie tool is way better in sorting through alerts than any plugin will ever be. We do this together with our designers to really think about the flow of development. So this is how our web portal looks right now, and it's really hard to convey the value of it to an outside audience with a static screenshot. But what I see is multiple ways to explore our IT landscape, and a lot of notifications that either ask immediately for my attention or are tasks that I can pick up later. This is great, because if I don't know what to do, I can always look and say, oh yeah, this is something that's assigned to me. Or, oh, this score is getting a bit low. Maybe we can improve there. And if there's something really critical, I know as well. So my key learnings from implementing a web portal at Bol is that you need a lot of data, a lot more than you expect. And it doesn't matter if you're using Backstage, which is almost more like a framework for building your own web portal, or a SaaS solution like Port, for example. You still need that development team to tame that data, create new data, to glue everything together, just to get it nicely in your web portal. the portal will impact the daily lives of your developers. Otherwise, it has no immediate impact. A web portal is much more than static documentation. With documentation, you're really happy that you have it, but you only will look at it once or twice. While a web portal, well, we see that developers look at it every day. Then again, I think you should provide integrations with the tools your developers need to do their work, but don't just try to replicate their UI or just enable a plugin. No, try to think of the journey of how developers work and try to figure out where you can get meaningful information from these tools or meaningful actions and put them in your web portal. So that's sort of my take. Onno, can you summarize everything for us?
Yeah, I will give it a try. So I think if you're planning to adopt a portal, or if you're already on a journey doing so, I hope we've provided some angles to look at doing that and identifying some opportunities as well as challenges that you can find on the way. So from a value perspective, what we said is really try to apply continuous product discovery tactics to avoid cognitive biases, assumptions, and like the loudest voice fallacy. From a viability point of view, I've zoomed into the organizational challenges, having an open culture, establish a cross-functional team. And then Roy alluded to the feasibility, so more the technical feasibility of things. Requires strong presence of data sources. And users don't care where that data comes from. They perceive it as they perceive it. And then last but not least, from a usability perspective, integrate and enhance touch points. Don't rebuild the excellent tools that are out there. And just more plugins don't make a better user experience. So be mindful of that as well. Those are our learnings, and I hope that you can take that along in your journey as well. Thank you.
Thank you.